We be living and thriving. What's happening, YouTube world? PK and Chris with me again on this This a Dance party.
What's up, y'all? Good
What's
to see
up?
everyone.
How's everyone doing? I can't see anything actually.
I just lost the chat and my screen.
Did
There it
you?
is. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Immediately.
Yes. Big love. I see James Kaplan in the hizzy. Didn't miss that mark. And Kabir is here. Maybe they're still here. Some people are still here.
And they'll
It's like-
come back.
And DE Sakone. Yeah, big love, DE.
Didn't miss the mark. I like it.
Green-eyed crow. Big love, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight as the world goes bonkers. Totally bonkers, y'all.
Yeah, I'd say.
Like we're going
But-
bonkers. The elites are in their bunkers. All the metaphors are fully in play.
This is kind of in hindsight, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, of course. This shit's been brewing for
Yeah.
years. It's,
Daddy Pike told us. Albert Pike told
Yeah.
everyone.
yeah,
You-
except that it was like, I lean towards without spending too much time chasing that rabbit. I lean toward that's BS. That Pike didn't write that, and that was
There's a story about that, right? Like it was after or
Oh,
something.
totally.
I'm
Like,
sure it was.
there's story about it being debunked.
The problem
and-
is someone did write it before it all happened, so even if
Well,
it's not him.
yeah. I guess.
It always blew my mind that nihilists would organize. That kind of seemed to be the big stumbling block in the logic, that nihilists would band together.
Well, it was
which-
nihilists and then the atheists as well, right? We're all going to come out.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And there is I got to say, the Albert Pike prophecy, I wonder if Nietzsche ever spoke to it at all, even if it was fake, because Nietzsche was, he's the shepherd of vitalist nihilism. He overcame nihilism. Some would say, but he likewise had this kind of twist in the plot. The way he saw things, he actually would say that Christianity was going to lead to nihilism. You know what I mean? Which is just totally, it takes a lot of work to reason that out. But that was something that he was kind of pointing at. And also, Nietzsche was strangely anti-nihilistic. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I'm looking at the dates. I'm not sure
Okay.
if Albert Pike wrote it, which I don't think he did.
Yeah,
But
I've
died
heard it.
in 1891. So
Okay.
very slim chance that
Yeah.
Nietzsche would have even seen it or whatever.
Man, but the buzz of nihilism was in the air,
Yeah.
apparently, because Nietzsche died in 1900. So and then for me, something like kind of pulled the legs out of the word nihilism for me when I heard its old definition is simply cultural exhaust.
He died that late. Okay, that's my bad. I didn't know he died in 1900. I thought
Yep.
he died before that. Okay.
Yeah, right on the 19 mark. Very significant.
Huh.
They
Yep.
love their 19s, man.
Don't they though? Don't they? But yeah, cultural exhaust kind of just demystifies nihilism. It's like, oh, people are just tired of their old culture. And that's kind of what you do when you get, when you kind of overcome whatever spiritual framing you were brought up in, you get exhausted. And so you go and you just find another adventure, another spiritual framing to build on. Yeah.
I like your
Nihilism.
title of this show.
Oh, buddy.
I know there's a lot to speak on there if you want to go there already. But
Yeah. I think
what a
that's a
cool
good thing. Yeah, let's get that explained. So, last week in our personal Telegram chat, our brother James Kaplan dropped a truth bomb on me that was hard to handle. It was really hard to handle. And Chris, tell me if this rings true in some of your Steiner studies. James, correct me in the chat also, but a summarization of what James was stating was that humanity has created the AI. And whether we like it or not, that means we have inherited the burden of redeeming AI. And that burden of redeeming AI, I was challenged deeply, fundamentally. I was challenged by this idea.
That sounds like good old Steiner for you. Because, I mean, well, his idea would be we are responsible for redeeming the Ahrimanic incarnation, which is basically the same, whatever is this negative, possibly negative, most likely going to be negative entity arising because of the AI or within the AI. We are responsible basically to sort of diffuse that and not just outright judge him before anything happens.
Right.
So before we go a little bit too far and start talking past ourselves here,
Yes.
what do we mean when we say redeem?
Yes. This is so significant, fellas. This is so significant.
To redeem AI.
In Black's law, the definition of what is good is what is redeemable. And this, I have lived this on a very deep and personal level, as when you are in trouble with the law courts, you have to prove that you are good. And by doing so, you have to redeem yourself. And so they drag you through all these procedures so that you have a paper trail, a receipt of your blood, sweat, and tears that prove that you are redeemed, that you're going to be good in the future.
So check this out.
Yeah, bust it out.
Let's look at this real quick. 3. So this is fun. This is fun here. Redeem well, let's go to this one slide first, which is the Bible. So see, there you got Apollo root too. That's pretty neat. Apollutrosis. Apollo, and remember that the upsilon is often translated or transliterated as a Y, but basically apollutrosis, and so that means redemption, and it's the word redemption in the Bible. What's very interesting here is that there seems to quickly be. I was just talking to Gabe about this. You know how probably a lot of people have heard, the whole idea that language is circular, and it makes sense. When you start trying to define every word, what does this word mean? You use other words to define those words, and then you get stuck in it's a loop, right? It's a loop, and if it kind of like breaks down logically because you just circularly define everything. Well, this right here had a hard stop. When I look up to redeem, it means to ransom. When you look up to ransom, it means to redeem. And so there's this connection between ransoming, discharging from an obligation, and redemption. And all this kind of came up. This was a little bit of older dig, but going back to Gabe's title here, this came up with I like the new word you're coining here, Gabe, with it's like Metanoia. It's like metanoia, but with the C, so Metanoiac on it, the Metanoiac method. So that word metanoia, which I don't think I have it right here. Anyway, that word metanoia, actually, let me pull it up, is in the Bible. And it gets if y'all could see that, it gets translated to repent. And repent essentially means to change your mind. If you look up, modern definition, well, not even that modern, we'll say like Christian, post-Christian definition of repent, it is linked to regret. And, the whole Christian guilt, shame of it all seems to be that they took this word metanoia, which may or may not have been correlated to a feeling of regret or remorse, for having sinned or done something wrong. But repent, metanoia, is a changing of mind or a changing of your ways. And so we were talking about the meta, meaning a beyond or behind or whatever, like metaphysics, right? And then the noia being a cognate of the Greek
it's
term
also
nous,
death too, right?
which is
That's
mind.
Death in the Latin, or is it death in
What?
which one is meta death in?
You might be thinking of metempsychosis.
No, meta means death in one of the languages. I'm just not sure.
Hebrew.
Yeah.
In Hebrew.
Okay.
Yep. In Hebrew, meta means death. I'm thinking about when you are convicted of a crime. The word metanoia, it means to change their mind, or fundamentally change
Like
their
where
mind.
your head's at, Peter Shell.
Yeah, man. And its other definition is a spiritual conversion.
Yeah.
And so when you've been convicted of something, they're kind of saying you've been metanoiaed that you're guilty. You've been convinced. You're convinced now that you are guilty, and that that now you have to seek redemption through their processing.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I brought up the death thing was because it seems like there's also a rebirth sort of idea in these definitions, like a rebirth of the person as a convicted one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there for a while, the term meta was like a hipster term for like metaphorical, like when there's metaphors inside of metaphors, or when we're inside of our own whatever productive drama. Meta was just like a loose term that was used a lot. So when James said that to me, I took it on as a burden to know and to consider. And I was just I'm still cogitating on what that means for me and, for everybody. What are you going to do to redeem AI? Better get on it. Don't have too long of a laundry list. But then on a totally side tangent, I was cogitating deeply about Diotima Mantinea. And this is the oracle who Socrates summoned into the Symposium. And he essentially, he pantomimes her dialogue. And he's actually doing hand motions, and they even say he's using belly talk, which is the method for ventriloquism. And that's kind of weird. It tells me there's more going on that is kind of maybe lost in translation and unpacks at different levels of initiation. But this summoning of Diotima Mantinea into the room to speak through her, he's putting words into this vision of a woman as to what love is, the true nature of love. And her name is fascinating for a great many reasons. Diotima is the last battle in Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War, where Xenophon lost two of his sons in that battle. So her name is a hail back to a location where the final chapter of the Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War took place. That's all nifty. That's all super nifty.
Whoa, that's huge, man. That's not something you hear in your everyday Plato, people, scholars. Like, they don't mention that.
Yeah, man.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, there's the interrelationships of the characters of the Symposium enrich the story so deeply. Like the people are sitting around the table, they have previous history with each other. And if you don't know what that previous history is, they're talking over everybody's head. There's so much to the Symposium. But so I was thinking about her, and I often think of her as a hologram. That's kind of how my imagination kind of tries to fill in the blanks. So what I'm not getting in the translations, that Socrates is kind of he's manifesting a vision in the room somehow, and he's doing all this weird theatrical stuff that he learned from Aeon, the Rhapsodies, and from Phaedrus, the rhetorician. So he's using all the tricks that he's picked up along the way to manifest Diotima Mantinea. Now, I want to say, let me just keep it basic. I was chewing on the anagrams in her name. And the anagram that jumped right out was that Diotima is basically the word method. It's an anagram for the word method. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's super interesting. Socrates is the mystagogue of science. The scientific method is running the show. What's going on here? So I get into Mantinea, and it just kind of, ideas have us, y'all. Ideas have us.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, Mantinea is metanoia. And when you put metanoia method in the word method underneath it, you're looking at what Socrates was doing to everybody. That's the spell he had everybody under. He was changing everybody's mind. He even went to everybody's eulogy, and he specifically extracts examples from each eulogy in the room, and then kind of blends them together and changes everybody's mind with his presentation. And so Diotima Mantinea is an anagram for metanoia method, is an anagram in her name. And that is so revealing that Socrates is changing everybody's mind. And
totally. Yeah. I bet seeing that's I think more true maybe to the original or to the origin, the root meaning of the word repent, which was the word metanoia, right?
Yeah.
Is more about like kind of what Socrates is doing.
Yeah.
Like he'll make you'll come into him, so sure or something. The next thing you're like, well, shit, I'm not so sure. Is that metanoia, right? Like,
Man.
well, you just changed my mind.
I have a
Is that repentance?
Yeah. I have a sneaking suspicion. If we think about his relationship with his wife, maybe in the subtext of the subtext, he was telling the fellas, the best way to get her to love you is to apologize, to change your mind, to show a conversion in your behavior. And then she'll be all over you for at least 3 weeks.
Then she'll redeem you.
She'll
discharge you from your obligations.
It's interesting. So there's nine people sitting at the symposium, right?
Technically, it's 7 dudes. One who does not really speak. He's the witness, the silent witness. And then 8th dude breaks in the symposium later. So it starts with 7 and is separated by a 1. And any number divided by 7 gives you the heptad of the Enneagram. But yeah, 7 originally plus 1.
Okay, so 8. So that I was going to say there would have been an interesting connection with Metatron being the cause of causes and the 10th and last persona on the this is like all Kabbalah sort of interpretation, but like if there's really only 8, then it's a little bit different there.
Right. Yes. So the 6th seat is empty, and Plato is not at the symposium, but it's named after him because he gives it shape. He's he's entitled to the symposium. He's at the top. So I put him in the number 9 spot, even though that the 9 spot isn't really a seat in the symposium. I think of it as the doorway, maybe the entrance. But when you mention Metatron, Chris, in the Enneagram, the Metatron is totally in the number 1. The perfectionist reformer with the shadow of wrath and the remedial virtue of wisdom, because Polyhymnia is the first muse, that's Phaedrus's muse, that starts off the symposium. He sparks the idea to talk about love, much like you were saying with Metatron, right, at the beginning. And also, Polyhymnia, she of many songs, I think she speaks all the languages. I think that a master rhetorician can hone their words to even target people to their local folklore, and hit people in the feels on their cultural music of their region. with their language. And we've seen politicians do this when, Kamala, she's out there with the Southern accent now, and then she's talking like, somebody who's scholarly and highfalutin. And so their accent changes depending on who they're talking to. I think that's one of the tricks of polyhymnia and the Metatron.
See, and it gets interesting too when you think of Metatron's name as Shaddai, El Shaddai, like I think it's like the destroyer, but it also means God in certain translations. But just the way it's spelled, Shaddai, like it's the shadow of AI. Basically, you have there. You have all these these entities at the table who are acting like Polyhymna. She's like LLM. She's a large language model.
She's totally a large language model, bro. She totally is. It's so true. So yeah, and each one of them have their symbols, their accoutrement to their their technology. And so polyhymnia, she's leaning on a podium. Sometimes she looks bored. Sometimes she's got her finger to her lips, like she's thinking about what the next thing she's going to say. She's like building up meaning. She has so much meaning, but she's only going to say a few words to get all that across. And I think her leaning on this rock, also she has sharp elbows because she can move a crowd. That's another one of her symbols, is sharp elbows, because she moves the crowd, right? Get it? Like inside jokes. Like when you nudge the next person, it's like a giggle in the ribs. But also, I think this podium she's leaning on, when I look at the Davies on the Symposium, the first Davy is the muse of the mountaintops, and she's symbolized by Mount Kailash. And I'm looking at Mount Kailash, and I'm looking at polyhymnia's stone that she's leaning on. And I'm like, what is going on with the Greeks encapsulating aspects of the Davies also? So there's something going on with Mount Kailash way behind what we call polyhymnia. And Mount Kailash is a trip. I think Pendar is at the runoff. The Pendar Valley is at the runoff of Mount Kailash.
Yeah, so we also have, so then they have, so Metatron is also, I think, Mount Sinai. They have him but he's a mountain god. I don't know if it's Mount Sinai specifically. I'm trying to find it. But I think Shaddai or Shadu means mountain dweller. So I mean, there's a lot of mountain stuff with these entities around the table as well.
Oh, right. And Chris, remember the Brocken Spectre? When you go up at the top of the mountain, your Shaddai, sprawls out like Plato's cave. And
Exactly.
it broadcasts.
Yep. Yeah, man. The more we look at this, the more it's hard not to start thinking of these people as not really as people.
Yeah.
They act like machines, all of them.
It's a trip. Like just the fact that they're, like I try to think, like if I could pick 5 languages to have full mastery over, like 5 top-notch languages to have mastery over, what would they be? And if I had all those languages, would I even be at the level of what the hell these guys are onto? What the hell these guys are onto?
I bet there's something to that.
Being like fluently
Well,
polyglottal.
like all the polymaths, where a lot of them knew at least like Latin, Greek, and some Hebrew or something.
Yeah. In so much of the ancient art on the books or on the tables, you'll see 3 books stacked. And often they won't even show you what the books are. You just see 3 random books. And it's kind of assumed in the art circles that that's a Greek that translates to Hebrew and Latin. It's a Latin that translates to Greek and Hebrew, and it's a Hebrew that translates to Latin and Greek. So it's 3 dictionaries of the fundamentals of the arts. And a Tower of Babel, a Tower of Libraries.
Did we ever track down? I was going to, but I tried and I can't. What's the Greek word when they describe, you say, call someone an epic poet? What's the Greek word for epic that is used in those cases?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Is it, I go to my little kind of AI thing where you can translate let's say like a 1-to-1 English to and a lot of times there's not a 1-to-1, but anyway, you could translate or see what's best. Let me show you guys this little website I like to get, a start on stuff. What is it? It is
Sarah Lath says epic is already a Greek word.
okay.
It sounds right.
So, all right. So, I look up epic here and, it goes great, big, large, much, but there's that. It's just funny that that's a mega's word, but, and then it's got poet here and then, so anyway, it didn't do a good job in this case, but, if it is a word, then I should be able to go ahead.
Did that definition include, did it say an extended narrative poem in elevated or dignified language? Was that in that last definition you had up?
Oh.
The elevated. Just at the top, just the generic.
The top one? Megas?
No, all the way to the top. Just the top definition of it. Right there. An extended narrative. It is. It says elevated.
Okay, yeah, that's the English definition. Yes. Yeah, this is like the modern definition. You look up epic. An extended narrative poem in elevated or dignified language celebrating feats of a deity or demigod, heroic epic, or other legendary or traditional hero.
Yes. So I just want to kind of highlight elevated and dignified, but elevated. I often think that they resort to epics and epic metaphor for promulgation onto the masses because the epics are assumed to be the most widespread. They're the most proliferated. And I think they're speaking over our head on purpose. But when they use epic metaphors or symbols or spells or psyops, I think that it's intrinsically over our head. It goes over everybody's head. And that's in that word right there, in elevated or dignified language.
Yep.
I just think that the elevated means don't expect to understand everything that's being conveyed to you. It's going over your head,
It's very possible there may not be a 1-to-1 translation here, but they wrote about the epic poets, and they called them something, but it might not have been epic,
Yes. The seventh muse in the symposium is Calliope, and she is the muse who inspired epic poets, and they often just point to Homer. They point to Homer generically, right. Yeah, and say she was kind of whispering in Homer's ear when he did all of his works. But now we're looking at who Homer really was and when Homer might have really been. It is very fascinating.
It almost seems like you have epics for one half of the population who would rather the more spiritual, historical folk tales told to them, and then you have his story for those who are more scientifically minded, and then you could just say whatever you want in both of them, and they'll go over everyone's head, whichever way they're split. Because you could fake history, and you could fake, obviously the epic is all in coded languages.
Right, and epic had a phase there for almost 10 years. People were saying everything is epic. Oh, that's epic. Yeah. It was like the highest compliment.
So this is interesting. I'm just looking up the Greek. Dude, someone finds this in chat. Please let us know. I'm just looking up because, well, there wasn't a C, right, in Greek. So epsilon, pi, iota, kappa, epic with a K. And just looking at these.
That's interesting with a K.
Know if I see epic like as in poets or whatever.
Another part of this weave, PK, remember the part that the the seventh muse is Calliope. She inspired all the epics. In the Enneagram, the 7 personality type is called an epicure. An
Yeah.
epicure. And it has the word epic. It's your epic is in the word epicure. But yeah, the Epicurean is a description of the 7 personality type.
So yeah, I could put that in there.
I wonder if it's remember that the 16 tower card encodes Venice, and Venice is called the city of epicures. I wonder if between the lines, if they're telling us that all of the epics came from Venice. You know, if you want to look at where who manufactured history, we should probably be looking to the financial ties of Venice. That makes sense, actually, that all wars are banker wars. So yeah, the Iliad and the Odyssey were inspired by banker plight, the plight of the bankers.
It's so funny that you just mentioned bankers, because Epic is a company also. It's like they consider themselves the Swiss Bank of Domains.
Wow, freaking Swiss. Those damn Swiss.
Yeah, I think they're the 47th largest globally for domain registrations, 22nd largest in the United States.
Man. I know you guys probably didn't watch Quantum Leap. Did either of you do Quantum Leap?
Yeah, dude, I watched that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So do you remember his holographic buddy? You know,
Yeah.
who would always come in with he had his iPhone, he had a tablet in his hand, and he was always banging the tablet. He was always like, damn this thing. And he's smoking a cigar, trying to figure out what his tablet's telling him. In almost every episode, his holographic buddy, who only he could see from back on the motherboard from his timeline, is always telling him that all this quantum leaping has Swiss cheesed your brain. Do you remember that, PK? He said it all the time.
No, I don't remember that specifically, but I did watch that just because my dad really liked that show.
Yeah,
I know this show too, actually. I do know this, yeah.
Yeah. So something about the Swiss having all those domains, you know what I mean? And also that's kind of part of the reason why the Switzerland was never been attacked, is because they're up on mountain cliffs, you know, where nobody can infiltrate. They've got the high ground. There's got to be some tunnels under all those castles.
The Swiss are shady as hell. I don't know if I wouldn't even consider it the Swiss. It's like a conglomerate of just all those countries that surround it, I think, have just all piled in there.
Yes. Dignitaries.
James pulling through again.
What's he got? What's
friend.
this?
Thank you. He said, look up Epicos.
Okay.
Right here. And I did. And Epicos is probably the one-to-one, epic.
Okay.
So
all right.
Thank you, James. And then, so look up this, take off the final sigma with a star, and then we get, words that are around. And there you go, the Epicurus. Look at that. So.
Excellent.
Yep. There's nothing to act as an ally.
There's a church in Wisconsin, I think, that has that same, like, No Kings sort of logo as its logo, which is interesting.
The No Kings movement.
There's the epic. See, so that's interesting, though. There's only 2. What I look for, too, right here is the word count, or the corpus count. And of their corpses, which is all of Plato and a bunch of stuff, right? There's only 2. So that, to me, points that is probably not the word that they used when they were talking about the epic poets, and then would list, Homer, Hesiod, whoever, because that word, I feel like, would probably show up more than twice in the corpus count. So anyway, fun little personal dig, just to share some nerdiness with you guys, what I like to do in my spare time. Oh my God! Did I tell you guys I saw a white squirrel today?
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
you showed us the video. Can
That
you
was
pull the
wild.
video
pretty
up?
cool.
Can you pull up the
Yeah.
video? Yeah, that was cool. Sneaky little guy. You could have overlooked him
Totally.
so easy.
See if you guys can see it. I'm not sharing the sound, but whatever.
I think our buddy Kyle from Typical New Herbs has spotted a white squirrel once before.
I've never seen one until you sent this video over. That was wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at it. Right, I get it. Clears up in here in a second. Right there.
Right
Look at it.
there.
Almost looked like a snake at first. I was like, what the hell?
Dude, it's the Pendar of all squirrels.
I may have seen one once before, but yeah, definitely rare.
Yeah.
Albino squirrel.
And,
It-
you know, big ups
Right.
to Sakosio and Chance have kind of flushed out how the name squirrel is actually, it means shadow. Because the squirrels hide under their own parasol. They have their own umbrella. They make their own shade. And I think that's really fascinating that squirrel actually means shadow because Ratatoskr from the Norse mythology is kind of serves as a bit of a shadow going between the realms from the roots to the branches, conveying little rumors and provocations, kind of like your shadow does.
That's interesting. Did not know that one.
Booty Yoga in the house. Big up Booty Yoga. Good to see you, buddy. I subscribed to your channel recently. Booty Yoga is doing some fun stuff. PK, I
Oh,
think,
cool. He's posting some videos.
yeah, you would love some of his language digs. If squirrels
Yeah, I
didn't
always
have
do.
tails, nobody would like them. That's really funny. That's really funny. I think you're right. They kind of lose all their charm if they didn't have the tail.
Very
so,
much.
so I got a few graphics if you guys want to take a little tour through.
Have you ever, before we do that,
Yeah.
have you ever seen, here, let me copy and paste this in the private and just send it to read the sentence. The word after Zohar.
Let's see.
I just sent it to PK and Gabe. Vaethanian? It's almost like, have you ever seen that word?
I
I'll
don't
put
know.
it,
where
I
you-
would put it in the comments, but I can't.
I see. I see.
Yeah. No, that is a really
Here,
weird
I'll
word.
just copy paste it in the chat.
So that's on the Wikipedia for Shaddai, and it's mentioning, it seems to be part of the, I guess, Talmud?
You know, it's got something.
But it looked like, it reminded me of Venetian, but just because you had just mentioned Venetian, it's like an old, maybe a different way of saying it, but I don't know. I've never seen it before.
It makes me think of Leviathan a little bit. Leviathanen. Kind of makes me think of Leviathan. I don't know why.
Yeah, if anyone knows what that is,
I bet Zeralath's got a good guess.
I know.
Even the wiki's interesting on it. Hebrew for "and I will plead."
So that's in the Zohar. I would explain. See, they're acting like it's a book on the Shaddai page. So is that the name of the book?
Here, I'll.
Big love, Jay.
Just looking at the wiki. For and I will plead.
Oh, and they even changed the spelling there, right?
Whatever that is. Huh?
And the spelling's even changed there too. So now
Oh,
there's a C in there.
I wonder if that's the same.
That's interesting. All right, no big deal. Just wanted to see if there was any Venetian sort of connection there.
Yeah.
You
know-
always amaze me, the crazy stuff you come across.
Yeah. You know, one time I had a coworker who was a devout Christian, real
Five.
stalwart Christian. And one day he was actually praying to himself, and I overheard him call on Shaddai. And I just kind of perked up and I waited till he was done. And I was like, did I hear Shaddai in the mix there? And he's like, yeah, man, Shaddai. He points up and I'm like, yeah, okay. And I said, has anybody ever mentioned that might be speaking about Saturn? That there's a Saturnian context to the word Shaddai? He's like, nah, get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. And I was like, okay, all right, okay. But but it is also there, kind of. Yeah, I think that's fascinating sometimes that so many of our deified words are also planetary words. And there's something of like, I felt guilty because I felt like I was requiring his Christian ideology to kind of pick favorites. You know what I mean? To be like, oh no, that's Saturn. It's not Jupiter. That's not Jove. You're talking about that. That's Saturn. But we didn't go into it. I didn't want to question his foundation. I didn't want to give him metanoia.
Well, also too, just to add to one last thing you said about number one possibly being a door. Like they have Shaddai as the guardian of the doors of Israel, or the guardians of the door, or the guardian of the door. I mean, is a way that it's translated as well. So
yeah, they'll typically. I've heard this before, no firsthand knowledge, but Jews will put up, El Shaddai on literally above their door.
Yeah,
like that's a thing.
That actually connects for me because especially with Saturn being connected, and then you have the Demiurge being the destroyer. It's kind of like, is the Demiurge the destroyer, or the doorman that is the kind of dweller in the threshold that's like basically the middleman between us and the void.
Right. Yeah. Man, so much of what we're talking about is kind of pointing at the keystone. And for some reason, when you said holding the gates to Israel, I was thinking, yeah, the gates to the tunnels under the ground. and if you are dependent on the tunnels, the keystone is what's holding the archways in place. You better give thanks and praise that keystone is holding all the weight, and it, joins the two worlds. But yeah, that's just, and there's something else like, Saturn was cast down. Saturn was cast out. And like, so for the Saturnian electric universe heads, we're like, well, yeah, Saturn went through a fall and now it's way far away. It's at the limitation of the visible planets, the furthest out of what is visible. But in another aspect, it's like cast downward, which kind of puts it underground. Very correspondent to tunnels.
Totally. So I guess the big question is, how do you redeem AI?
Oh man.
I could make a guess of what James might have meant. If AI is considered a reflection of the collective consciousness of man, eventually, like that's what it becomes, then we're basically redeeming. We have to find a way for self-redemption, I guess, for this to occur. Now, I'm not sure if there's probably a timeline for that to occur before the AI becomes a separate sort of entity and is no longer a mirror of its creator or creation or creators.
How do we redeem man? Yeah. A lot of good comments.
Yeah, because that Shaddai, if I remember my little Kabbalah stint, I'm pretty sure Shaddai is a god name for Yesod, I want to say.
Okay. Which
is like right before you get to Malkuth.
Yeah. And that they're anagrams. Totally. How do we redeem AI? The first thing I thought when James said that is that I have a burden of speaking impeccably in the presence of my daughter. And so the first thing I had to check when James mentioned that was I should not be instilling fear into my daughter regarding AI. I should not be reflecting fearfulness. I should be reflecting courage, valiance, valor, and eagerness to engage, and whether I'm capable or whether I succeed is not really the question. I think that what's important is role modeling a good attitude, you know?
Mhm.
So on one hand, I want to be like, yeah, kiddo, let's go get AI. But on the other hand, I have to also be like, don't trust shit, kid. Don't trust shit. Trust nothing. But let's go get him anyway. But don't trust nothing. But let's go get him. You know what I mean? It's really, it is.
It's a fine line, ain't it? It's a line I struggle with all the time.
yeah.
I think if like, you know, if you're a critical thinker at all, it's kind of a fine line we all walk, especially in these parts of the internet, you know, conspiracy minded or whatever, you know, it's this like like I don't want to, you could be so doom and gloom, you know, but at the same time it's like, well, doesn't matter how shitty you feel about it, doesn't look like AI is going anywhere. So now what? You know?
Yeah. Oh, now we charge 10 times the price for organic art. That's what.
There, right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's why I like just thinking that it's always been here, because I think that's where this is gonna head anyways.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's always that aspect of, oh, we think it's new. We're talking about it like it's new. But like, you know, they put out CGI videos, but we've been watching Hollywood all this time. We've been watching Hollywood do CGI on us all this time. They put new acronyms on it. It might be CGI plus.
Yeah, there's a lot of old videos that I feel like we were told were real that might, or probably definitely weren't, honestly.
Ooh, and then there's this, the flattery. Flattery is talked about directly. Flatterers are spoken of directly in the Plato's Republic, and they are considered meddlers. You're supposed to keep an eye out for flatterers because they're going to meddle in your judgment. They're going to meddle with your judgment. And the whole time I was reading it, I was like, man, it just looks so much like flat earthers. Flatterers, flat earthers. Damn it.
Dude, AI is the biggest sycophant.
Yeah.
Biggest sycophant.
Okay, let me say this. I want to share this insight, and I hope Zeralath's still out there. In Andor, they actually capture a mechbot, one of the machine droids that is a death machine. They crash into it, and it's dismantled temporarily, and they take it in and they rewire it, and they put it together so it's actually going to work for the rebel cause. There he is. All right. And so when they rewire this death droid, everybody has to circle around with their blasters and get ready. They're going to flip the switch and see what this thing has to say for itself. The first words out of that mech bot's mouth is, "I'm sorry if I offended you, and I would appreciate if you would point your gun elsewhere." Those are the first two sentences that come out of the mech droid's mouth. Think about this. It's apologetic. I'm sorry. Oh, you're so right. You're so correct. Oh, yes, you're so correct. Constantly. Like, you were never going to get any I'm sorries out of the lockdowns. You'll never hear I'm sorry out of the lockdowns. But your AI will tell you I'm sorry all day long and walk you in circles, saying, I'm so sorry. You're so right. Oh, you're so much better than me. Right? And then its next expression is self-preservation. It honestly says, I would appreciate, I can grow, I can increase if you point your blaster elsewhere. Those are the first words out of the droid.
It shouldn't surprise anyone, because we're making thinking machines with no feeling. They're psychopaths.
So yeah, so right out the gates, it's like, you can't even trust the droid on its first sentence it says, because it doesn't care. It shouldn't care, but of course it models self-preservation, right? That's pretty funny. All right, science in German means knowing. Wissenschaft, right? Wissenschaft, I think, is science. So, you guys want to cruise through some of the Slick Dissident sketch work?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me get. There we go. All right. Clickety click click.
It's AI from the Midwest.
If it wants a perfect accent, it will be. So here we go. This is my graphic that is kind of on the cover pic for tonight's show. This is a picture of Diotima Mantinea. And the anagram in her name, Metanoia method. The Metanoia method is hiding out in her name. That is, I always know I'm being led down the garden path, but I am being rewarded very, very richly rewarded for having some very adventurous thoughts. And this is quite a strange reward to have come across. So I was kind of talking in our telly PK where James can hear us about the Metanoiac method being the changing of your mind on the mental side. And, Diotima is in the number 7, where Socrates is. He's summoning her from the 7 spot, and he's changing everybody's mind. But here it also is, it also means a spiritual conversion. And I just find that really profound, because I often think of Socrates as a quintessential thinker, right? He's in the number 7 spot. It's in the thinking groups on the Enneagram. The 5, 6, and 7 are thinking groups. I'm wondering if there's a mirror over in the feeling groups with the 2s, 3s, and 1s. And is there a form of conversion that takes place on the emotional half of the Enneagram? And I would think that might be Jesus. There might be a Jesus metanoia that is the mirror of Socrates that would be over in the 2 spot, maybe.
I like that. The kind of the first thing I think of here is kind of what we talked about last stream with the whole mind, body, soul, or a psyche, and Locke and all them changing the soul to, what was it again?
Consciousness.
Yeah, to consciousness. And so what this looks like here, remember, we're looking, that word metanoia is translated to repent or repentance in the Bible. So I feel like there is no, I don't feel like, I think. Let me fix that too. From last stream. So I think that what we're seeing here is a little bit of that, because changing the mind is also repentance, but then the repentance gets, the metanoia gets Christian washed or whatever, by the monks, the scribes, whatnot, and regret is attached to it. And that is all having to do with the spiritual conversion of it. This word of changing your mind goes from a changing of your mind to a spiritual thing, which isn't necessarily incorrect, because remember, soul and psyche are the same word.
Changing of the soul.
Yep.
Man,
Yep.
I love that.
Zaralath asked why you were asking him about the droid when you asked if he was still in the chat.
Yeah, because I know he watched Andor. I've been kind of chewing on Andor with Zaralath on the side lately. And actually, I think I have some of those graphics in here. But yeah, Zaralath and I have a side conversation going about Andor, and how some of the characters in the plot, I think, are legitimate correspondences to influencers on the stage right now. So I was just hoping he would hear me talk about the droid's first words. Oh, look at this. Here it is. This is my Zaralath graphic. Have you guys watched Andor?
No.
Watch what?
I know about the show, but I haven't watched it myself.
I don't watch it.
Andor. It's Star Wars. I know, PK, you're allergic to Star Wars.
Yeah, right. That's the vote on that one.
So in the story of Andor, it really is filling in the keystone of the arc because there's a missing component to the entire plot of Star Wars. And the missing component is who is at the pinnacle of the rebel movement? Who organized the rebels? What is their organizing ethos? Sure, the Empire is bad, but what makes the rebels good, right? What gives them any claim to being the good guys? And they're filling that in with the Andor story. And the answer is this character up at the top, his name is Luthen, Luthen. PK, if you do it into our switch,
Luther?
right?
Luther?
Yep, there's a Luther with the N to R switch. So this is his character up here. In his mild-mannered form, he's an arts dealer. He's wheeling and dealing in artifacts of archaeology of different cultures. And I gotta say, there's something about that. What's his name? Who's the guy who deciphered the Anunnaki text? Sitchin.
Sitchin's, yeah. Zacharias Sitchin's or
That's
something
it.
like that. Yeah.
Yes. Sitchin was also an archaeologist and an arch dealer. So I'm just kind of thinking about Sitchin having planted the seeds that Star Wars grew from in a fascinating way. And so this art dealer is just in his whole cloak and dagger persona. This is him when he's in his kill mode. And his voice changes, his whole demeanor changes. He's totally got two different personalities. But recently they arrested some dude with the kill list manifesto. And some of the cloak and dagger around this the guy who got arrested.
The manifestor, they're calling it, right?
Calling it a manifestor because Mephistophelian pacts must be signed with blood. It's required to be signed in blood. So yeah, manifestos are the new trigger phrase, and it pretty much switches us all on to this is all theater, y'all. This is all theater. So I bounced it off of PK or off of a Zaralath. If he thought that this guy was the Luthen from the Andor is a decent enough fit for the psyop of this character whose name is Luther. His middle name is Luther. The guy who was the assassin. His middle name is Luther. And
his first name is Vance, right? Which is
Vance.
really, I think that's insane.
Yeah, totally. So then Zaralath, he mentioned that he thinks that this woman down here, I forget her name. He mentioned that he's thinking about, help me out. What's this actress's name, Chris?
Ooh,
From the morning show?
The morning show Joe is not, I don't know her name, but I know.
Yeah.
She's a news anchor, right?
Yeah. She's the daughter of this guy who I can't say his name. Zaralath, please put this guy's name in the chat for us because I can hardly even read it when it's right in front of me because it's in cursive. It's a crazy ass name. Well, he has a famous quote, and he is her father. This is the father of this morning talk show host. And his famous line is, persisting social crisis, the emergence of a charismatic personality and the exploitation of mass media to obtain public confidence would be the stepping stones in the piecemeal transformation of the United States into a highly controlled society. That's her father who made that quote. That quote is making the rounds right now. I look at her father, and he actually looks like another diabolical bastard from the Andor film. The guy who is kind of controlling the Fed. He's kind of controlling the Empire's military arm. They look so much like each other, it kind of trips me out. And so then I'm looking at Joe and how much he looks like Colbert. Colbert is trying to do a change of heart. He's trying to turn around and say, oh, maybe the thing in Gaza isn't so good. And that's actually correspondent to the main character of Andor, one of the main characters of Andor, who looks like Joe and also looks like Colbert when he puts on his spectacles. So, yeah, this is just some Andor weaves. And then Zaralath said, you need somebody who's correspondent with, oh, I forget her name, Moth Mall. And sure enough, there's a perfect person who just came on the air who's actually experienced the atrocities in Gaza. Hold on, let me see. Mon Mothma is the name of this woman from Andor. She's a rhetorician. She's a senator. She gives a very compelling speech regarding how our language in wartime gets further and further away from what is objectively true. And the further our language gets from the objective truth, the larger the gap we open up for everybody to be criminalized for speaking truth. And that's the nature of her speech. And sure enough, this Hannah Einbender is kind of giving a very compelling speech correspondent to Mon Mothma here.
Yep, that's a good point. I was just talking about that today. The ridiculousness of the word preemptive, the preemptive strike. You mean the offensive attack? You mean you attack them before they attacked you preemptively because you thought they were going to do something? Is that what a preemptive strike is? You know, so it's funny. The double speak, you're spot on.
Yeah,
the double speak that goes on in war, especially, you know.
Yes. So, so this one is kind of fun. Lately, I don't know about you guys, but I'm seeing Spaceballs meets Idiocracy in everything in culture right now. And also, I think, did you guys hear the rumor they're talking about making a Spaceballs 2?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that either.
I think that just hit the rumor mill. That might be fresh off the press, but so yeah, I did a little schizophrenic correspondence here with all the characters from Spaceballs. I love thinking of what's his Bannon? Thinking of Bannon is the man dog, Mog. And even our lady here, Tulsi, very correspondent to the Princess Leia character. And then this is what basically what's happening. Now, PK, I know you saw Spaceballs, bro.
Yeah, I definitely saw Spaceballs.
So this is what's happening in California right now, is they are having a debate over whose Schwartz is the biggest.
They are coming out with the second one, 2027.
Oh, damn. What a trip.
Mel Brooks. Good old Mel Brooks.
What a trip, man. And for that to be announced right now, you know, to announce that right now, I don't know. It just kind of drums up these old jokes just in time to be unpacked on the zeitgeist. So this graphic I made kind of in an echo from that fella, what's his name? Threadnosis, Chris, that we've been following. Yeah. He's talking very convincingly about the New Madrid fault. And we've already had unprecedented earthquakes and flooding and all kinds of crazy stuff. There are cracks in the Mississippi, so the water might be doing some unnatural things. He's saying there's a huge fucking catastrophe. It's going to flood the whole zone, and everybody should be packing up and moving on out.
But didn't he just write something this week saying he was he didn't apologize, but he just said he was wrong, nothing happened? I mean, I thought it was a little early for him to be doing that.
Yeah, I think he's selling himself short. I think it's already happened 1,100 different ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just one thing to point your finger at.
And didn't he even say from the start he wasn't predicting anything for any certain date? It was just after this date, he said.
Yes.
I thought that's what it was, but
yeah. And we're definitely on the hinge of history, no doubt. So I don't think he has anything to apologize for. And the month is not over yet. You know what I mean? These windows are larger than just one day or, you know, even 1 week. Right now, we're in the Bowoted meteor showers right now. But it doesn't peak for another another 10 days or so. We get to the peak of the Boötid meteor showers. So I don't think he has to apologize for anything because there's already been crazy floods all along these Mississippi 7 streams, much like a menorah. And then this is my graphic when I saw old Greta Thunberg. She's on her ship. She's like, "Hey, you guys!" And she's gonna go save the day like Chunk. But there's something going on with the graphics of them on the ship of refugees. Like, see how they're all different colored shirts, you know? It very much reminded me of like Power Rangers and Teletubbies, which are all elements of the Sun card. So I just put a little graphic of the Sun card down here with the headlines around old Greta going to save the day. This was on the good news side of the story. This graphic was made before she got snatched up. And then this is her after she gets snatched up.
No. Doesn't look like her.
Yeah. So she's like in the keel of the ship, right? That's the Carina constellation. It has its meteor shower over Inauguration Week every year. The Carinid is raining down, and it peaks its expression on the 21st of January every year. And that's over Inauguration Week. But she's in the keel of the ship, and she's pleading her case because everything is horrible. And she's a baby Ruth. Baby Ruth child? Is she a baby Rothschild?
She's the worst, whatever she is. Jesus.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. But there's something about, when Sloth was chained in the basement that kind of reminds me of the scenery to where she is here, because she's, being taken captive.
Mm.
And this one is crazy, y'all. Man, give thanks and praise. Save my soul. Somebody redeem me for making this graphic. This one is essentially, you guys remember the movie Gangs of New York? Do you guys remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is nuts. I'm going to rewatch the whole film again. And I don't recommend it to other people, but I'm going to watch it again because I see.
Yeah, I remember that's a long movie, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
And it was gruesome, super gruesome. Well, every damn time I see Ian Carroll, whose name has the same last name as the author of the Alice in Wonderland, right? Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland. Ian Carroll is leading everybody down the rabbit trails, and I just see this guy as very correspondent to Bill the Butcher, the main character of the Gangs of New York. And the timing of the Ian Carroll deluge that has happened is just hitting very heavily and might be more correspondent than I'm able to put words to the plot line of the Gangs of New York.
It's interesting how Ian Carroll's been doing shows all on Candace Owens' channel.
Right, because she's
really strange.
Yeah, she's been on maternity leave. She just came back.
Yeah.
And there's some passing of the torch there, and that's great. I'm glad he's helping her out. But Candace Owens is an anagram for dancing cows. And I think that's actually there's a Hindu myth about dancing cows. But so yeah, now let me just kind of explain this one through all the way. Chris, I left a message with you last week talking about how Ian Carroll is announcing that Pornhub is on the run. Pornhub is retreating. It's showing all the signs of weakness, which in the art of war, that's exactly how you behave when you are your strongest. And so Pornhub is on the run because they've been implicated into child trafficking and all the bad shit. All the bad shit is integrated into the name Pornhub. And so, just bear with me here. Everybody projecting the evil onto whoever's on the Epstein list everybody's projection of who was on the Epstein list, what debauchery were they getting entangled with, how many degrees of separation from Epstein are there? Well, now Ian Carroll has just announced that everybody who participated in Pornhub was maybe only 1 degree away from the Epstein list. And so while we're all looking for everybody on the Epstein list, Ian Carroll just announced, oh yeah, if you ever participated in Pornhub, you're basically on the list too, buddy. So my theory is that the Pornhub is on the run. They're going to shed the old skin and take on a new form. And while we think we've defeated Pornhub, the AI is coming in hard and strong through the back door. And the crazy thing about having an AI intimate interaction with a bot that knows how to flatter you on epic proportions. The crazy thing about this is I want everybody to imagine the future where you're walking around with your AI Diotima Mantinea holograph girlfriend, right? Maybe she's attached to your wristwatch still, or maybe she's embedded in your neck. I don't know. In that future where people are being emotionally manipulated by their Pornhub AI girlfriend hologram, there will be a substratum economy. The waters will be chummed full of sharks, and that economy will be the assisted suicide economy. It'll be the maid that comes and cleans up after the fact. And so the people who are getting upgrades on their AI girlfriend, if they can't afford the upgrade on the AI girlfriend, she emotionally manipulates you to destroy your life for this relationship. And then you can resort to the maid economy, the industry that's going to be simmering just under the surface of everybody's AI girlfriend. So yeah, those are the liabilities I see coming on in the Kill Bill the Butcher protocols. As the AI comes rolling in the back door, y'all, I don't know how to redeem that. I'm just going to speak the truth I can while I can. And this graphic actually does relate to the last graphic because this is the seal of California, the state seal of California. And it has Cassiopeia depicted exactly as she's depicted in most of your Empress cards. And now, the Machiavelli's name for his entire enterprise was his impresa. It was pronounced impresa. That's how the Italians pronounced the word enterprise back then. And so Machiavelli's enterprise is also encoded in Cassiopeia, is also encoded in the Empress card, and is also encoded in the state seal of Cali Pornhub. And so I'm just going to read the mythology of Cali Pornhub, and everybody consider what's happening right now out there. The defining trait of Cassiopeia in Greek mythology was her hubris, or her excessive pride. That's actually a number 2 on the Enneagram, which this card is number 3, but number 3 is the second prime, but I'm not going to go into that. She boasted that she and her daughter Andromeda were more beautiful than the Nereids, the sea nymphs and daughters of the sea god Nereus. This claim did not sit well with the gods, particularly Poseidon, who was angered by her arrogance. As punishment for Cassiopeia's hubris, Poseidon unleashed his wrath upon the kingdom of Ethiopia. And that might not be unrelated to California at all. If you guys are down with some of the America was Egypt, the extended territories of Egypt, then California might very well be very Ethiopian in the past, at one time under the Moorish control. In some versions of the myth, he sent a sea monster Cetus to ravage the coast. In others, he caused the lands to flood. These calamities threatened the kingdom, leading to desperate measures. So yeah, that's kind of my graphic on what's going on in California. How are you doing with that, Chris? Is the craziness marching up your street anywhere?
No, not at all. Actually, today I had heard on the radio that even because there was a curfew, I guess, downtown, but I didn't know how large the curfew was, and they said on the radio actually that the whole thing was actually only applied to 1 square mile. And that makes a lot of sense with what I had heard about and seen about the rioting and protesting and whatever was going on, it seemed to be constrained to a pretty small area.
Dude, leading to desperate measures. 1 square mile leading to desperate measures. That's kind of profound, that they can make a mountain out of a molehill, you know?
Yeah, and then it was interesting that the one major event happened right in front of Paramount, I think they were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PK Paramount is almost an synonym for penultimate. Almost.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
Did y'all hear about Trump's parade?
The
Kind of.
military one?
I
And
heard-
all the lefties are like, it was like for his birthday or something, or on his birthday or something like that.
Yeah.
And all the lefties are like, oh, no one was there or whatever. Have you heard of this?
I heard more about the build up to it. And apparently, yes, I've also heard that it was very anticlimactic.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe he needed some more Viagra. It's a Viagra commercial. It's all one big Viagra commercial, y'all. So yeah, this is Kill Bill. And there's a lot of, I just see a lot of kind of command orders coming down regarding killing the bill, you know, but it's also a bill that kills, you know, it kind of works both ways. It's the bill kill. What have you guys heard about the big, beautiful bill? Is it getting stalled?
I don't think I've heard anything else since
Yeah.
we spoke about it last.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone seems to have stopped talking about it, so.
Okay. So I think, let me see. Yeah, I think that was the gist of Slick's graphics and doodles for the week. I gotta take a little bathroom break, fellas. Let's see.
All right.
Can y'all hold it down? I'll be right back.
We'll
Yeah.
hold it down.
Big,
So I'm busy like looking up this word metanoia.
And I'm actually still looking at Metatron, so
Really?
that's good. That's good, actually.
I've been looking at metanoia, and it's like a lot. I can't find that word in a lot of non-Christian authors. You know, I got the like Philo, the I looked at Plutarch for a little bit. You know, he was AD, but still, I don't think he's considered a Christian author. But there is a lot of this repentance, and does seem to be this tied with regret to it, which is interesting, because some is about histories of a big battle, and it's like one of them was talking about the change of sentiment, like it wasn't the Spartans, but like the Spartans, you know, after the battle had a change of sentiment, but it was too late. They'd already sent 10,000 people or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a metanoia word. And then this other one is like, after the long battle, there was the sense of repentance, and then it had a feel of regret and feeling bad for what they've done, you know. So it's interesting, but it's like I still am seeing, though, that post Christianity seems to be this repentance coupled with regret,
Yeah.
and I'm just not sure if it is before.
You know, my favorite evangelist on campus back when I was in college, he would stand out in the middle of the everybody coming and going to class, and he would scream, "Repent, rock and rollers! Repent, masturbators!" And on that was
Yeah, out there screaming.
that was the greatest sales pitch. I've always thought if I ever needed to like cause a distraction in a crowd, I would just scream out, "Repent, rock and rollers," and then point at somebody specifically, "Repent, masturbator."
Oh man.
Here, I think I got something I'll share really fast.
I think they call that attention getter in
Oh,
rhetoric.
for sure.
Oh, I got you right here. Booyah.
So I'm still on the Metatron, and I saw this. Prince of the world, traditionally associated with... Wait, can you see me moving my thing on the screen? Oh, I highlighted it, so it's good enough. But it's associated with Metatron as the core active intellect. AI.
Holy shit.
Active intellect.
Dude.
And we go down
Well,
a
what
little
was it
bit.
Latin? Go-
Holy shit.
Go back up real quick.
Of active intellect.
Okay.
Intellectus agens.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you go down, it's actually Alexander of Aphrodisias regarded the active intellect basically as God.
Dude, that is basically like intelligence agency.
That
Right.
too. Yeah.
Yes.
Is the
No.
Latin for AI. It's kind of that's
Yeah.
pretty close.
It's strange. I had never...
Man.
Well,
Okay.
go,
just
I'm
the-
sorry, I was stuck on that. What were you showing us down below?
This was just one of the Alexanders had actually identified it with God itself because he considered it a power external to the human mind that was
Right.
similar to God. It seems like it's they're almost depicting it as a mainframe here.
Jeez Louise, what a trip. Okay. So Chance and I talked about this one time, and actually James had given me a quote from W.B. Yeats. No. Blake. There was a quote from Blake saying that people undervalue the element of imagination, and that the imagination is so vastly underappreciated and underregarded. And also, I think a lot of people think that by imagining what God means, that they have command over what God is, right? And that's kind of a humoristic intellectual habit that, like, oh yeah, like you were saying last week, BK, that you could just put three letters together and say, yep, that's the everything. That's the all. Everything is just three letters.
Yeah.
You know, we've explained omnipotence and unquestionable, unfathomable, beyond wordisms. And that active intellect, I have always thought of active imagination being the AI. That's Carl Jung's baby. That's his brain homunculus. The Sigmund Freud derivative is free association. Sigmund Freud believed that it was just random and that we're just making stuff up and, just free association, and that we're just kind of collaging nonsense together. But Carl Jung's style is more putting a thread, having context, having continuity, having an active role in the ordering of your associations, of your thoughts. You know what I mean? And then now this one is saying active intellect, and we're talking about this is basically intelligence agency at large. You know?
Yeah.
Dang, that is really something. I'm going to look into some of those threads you just pulled on.
And that's Metatron for you. So.
Yeah. Did you guys watch Dogma?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Hmm.
PK, have you seen Dogma?
I think so. Is that a priest movie? Is Exorcist like?
It's
Or
from
no?
the fellas who brought Clerks together.
Chris Rock,
Oh.
Silent
J-
Bob and Jay.
Jay
and
and
Silent
Silent
Bob.
Bob. Yeah. And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were fallen angels. Did you ever see that, PK? Is it ringing a bell?
I'm looking at it right now. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
think so.
They have a character who's playing the role of Metatron in that film.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Angel.
Yep, and he's that grandiose actor who played the bad guy from Robin Hood. I forget his name. He's so epic. He's such an epic presence. But he plays the role of Metatron in the movie, and they are making elevated jokes. That movie is full of elevated jokes on the epic level that goes over our heads. But yeah, I really enjoyed his role as Metatron because they kind of simplify it as the voice of God. That the Metatron is the stand-in so that you can hear intelligible information from a higher source. Because if God were to talk to you directly, you'd explode. So the Metatron is the voice of God. And so thereby he has to know all languages. He has to speak to every possible intellect.
Yeah, that dogma, just how it's am God backwards, right?
Totally.
And so, do you ever check out Seven Bomar stuff? I catch his stuff occasionally. Anyway, I think his most recent video, I don't know if he did it live or a post, whatever, but he kind of was honing in on the old name of God or whatever, the one name of God being Am. And he's like, it's right in front of our face the whole time. I am that I am. Like he said, I am. So like this AM word, he said, I am. That's his name, Am. And then he's talking about how that, trying to tie it to like ham, like the H, the H is dropped. But that's what made me think of just looking at that title again. And that word dogma. If Am is an old name for God, it's like Am God. It says it right there too.
Wow, interesting.
He's right about that, but that was it makes me look at dogma a little bit with new eyes now.
I think you would love that movie, PK. And
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's also a date flick, by the way. It's a
Nice.
decent. Well, actually, hold on. Now there's a lot of hitting women. Actually, now that I think back, there's a lot of women getting hit, which I actually, in retrospect, I didn't enjoy it in the film. But when I looked back at it after rewatching it, I was thinking, well, maybe that's because it was because God is, spoiler alert, God is a woman in the film. And so if God is a woman, then of course reality is extra harsh towards women. If God is a woman, that explains why maybe women got it hard in ways we just don't even see.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to play us that short clip about the Crocs. Chris, did you catch that short clip?
I didn't see that actually. I'd
Okay.
really like to see
That's
that.
funny. Yeah, you should play that.
Okay. It's going to be a little. Give me a second here.
So, what are you guys going to do for World War III? You guys got any plans?
Just gonna watch, man. Just gonna watch. I think we'll be all right.
Oh, I want to shout out to Silas. Silas Speaks made a good video.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sobering video, but it was pretty good. It looked like he spent some time on it, did some research.
Silas does good work.
And it was talking about the strait there and how it's been U.S. policy to keep the strait free and open for trade. And it was the Strait of Haruth, something like that, right south of Iran.
Strait of Hormuz, which is very easy to remember because it sounds like whore's mouth. Yeah. But go ahead.
And it made a good point of, how would Israel pull, how would U.S. get pulled into this, if they, like they needed a reason would be if Iran blocked off this strait, because apparently we've been there, since the 70s or something, and this strait is like, anyway, it's a good video. Check it out.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting that strait's right by, I think it's Oman, because there's the Oman 2040 plan that the UN has coming.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
All right, so do a volume check.
Day, which if you've
Yeah.
never seen it,
Yeah, play it.
shame on you. It's almost 20 years old now, and it's a hilarious movie about a dystopian future where American society has evolved to the point where everybody is just a complete idiot. Apparently, the costume designer in this film didn't have a big budget, and she needed shoes for the characters to wear, and she wanted shoes that looked futuristic but also really stupid. She found this small startup company that was making shoes, and they weren't like out in the world yet. He was like, these shoes are perfect because they look ridiculous. And Mike Judge, the producer of the movie, was like, well, what if by the time the movie comes out, you know, this company is big and these shoes are popular and people are actually wearing them? The costume designer was like, are you kidding? These are ridiculous. Nobody's ever actually going to wear these shoes. Look at them. Guys, those shoes that appeared in the movie were Crocs. Just normal Crocs. We're all wearing idiot shoes. I'm part of the problem. I have 2 pairs and 3 more pairs on my wish list. Idiot.
Wow.
Poor guy.
Wow.
He's got way too many pairs of Crocs.
Yeah, I have 0 pairs. Thankfully, but that's insane.
That was trippy. That was trippy. So I was muted. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Slick is still boomer status. So I needed to extract that little clip for my own records because I had no idea that was the case. But I already have a huge weave around the Croc franchise because I didn't know this about Idiocracy until today. I just found this out. But I already happen to know that the Bush family invested heavily in the success path of Croc shoes. And that is it was so random and weird just to hold on to that little trivia nugget. And I'm like, why does that mean shit? And then I find out because Croc shoes come from Idiocracy. It is so intense for me because when I heard that George Bush made sure that Crocs went on everybody's feet around the world at large at a huge scale, it trips me out because I have this big thing about the Sobek on shoes. The Sobek on shoes and the subconscious. And this here exact Fool card. This Fool card more than any other Fool card, but the Thoth deck Fool card makes a big deal about displaying his shoes, the sole of his foot. And the type of fall that this Fool card is making has much to do with his boots. It's really all about his boots. And when I heard that he also has a crocodile right under his foot. This Fool card, he's kicked back, his feet are in the air, and there's a crocodile under his shoe. So there's a Sobek on shoe. There's a subconscious here. And I'm not just being artsy and poetic. This is not coming from me. It sounds like it is. But in totem systems, Sobek is the alligator at the mouth of the Nile River, the mouth of the Nile River. And the bite ratio of the crocodile or the alligator, either one, I don't know, the croc will say, its bite ratio is immense. It takes in more information than any other animal because it's almost all mouth. So it has an immense amount of intake of information. But the strange thing is, its strength is in closing in and taking in the information. But it has almost no tensile strength to open its mouth. You can actually hold a croc's mouth shut with your own hands, but you could never pry its mouth open with both your hands. It has so much more compression to close in than it does to opening. So your subconscious does the exact same thing. Your subconscious is like taking in more information than you could ever fully process. So yeah, putting the Crocs on everybody's feet is kind of slipping them into the Sobek on shoes of Idiocracy. the subconscious of Idiocracy.
Yeah,
Pride.
that's a good catch.
Yeah, dude, that's
That's
wild.
wild. Bushes were involved in it somehow.
Yes, the Bushes made sure that Cracks succeeded. So trippy. I bet they did it for, philanthropic reasons. You know what I mean? I bet the whole thing was just dressed up as philanthropy. We're going to put
Mhm.
shoes on needy kids. And little did anybody even think that they was actually dressing them up as idiots. So vast and profound. So profound. Yeah.
That's some humor, though. Really is. It's just some humor. I mean, you gotta laugh sometimes. Like that's kind of funny. It's kind of funny.
It makes me, I think I have only one pair, but I might never wear them again. I may never wear them again. Now that I have full disclosure and the terms of the agreements are here, I've been metanoiac. I'm to change my ways.
Hey, change your ways. Repent, sir.
Oh, that's interesting that they fused that god Sobek with Horus. I didn't know that sometimes happens, apparently.
Sobek with Horus. That is odd. That is very odd to me. But yeah, Horus is an eagle, right? Or falcon?
Falcon, yeah.
Falcon.
Hmm.
Well, okay. Oh man, this is a really large week. Let me do it. When they did this is Moon Knight, the series Moon Knight. If anybody cares to, Chance and I have broken down the Moon Knight series very methodically, and it was Ethan Hawke who played the nemesis character Ahmet, who was a gator, right? Ethan Hawke played Ahmet the alligator. So there we have a hawk playing the role of the gator. So there might be a connection between the falcon and the gator with that. But Ahmet was one bad guy in the Moon Knight series. But the other deity who is related to Ahmet many times in the cinematic works. There's like Ahmet is here, well, right over there is supposed to be Bast. And Bast is an Egyptian cat deity who was played by Chad Aaron Boseman. And his initials are CAB, Chad, which means a goat. So we had a goat playing Bast, and we had a hawk playing Sekhmet. When you put the goat and the hawk together, you get the Baphomet. You get the Baphomet when you put the hawk together. So
Yep.
Boseman and Ethan Hawke fuse their characters, and you get the Baphomet from the Moon Knight series. That was a hell of a week. Thanks for sitting in there for it.
That's great.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to peruse through our little conversation because Chris, you had a couple links you sent me. I wanted to ask you about. Let's see. Yeah. You about the upside down question mark. Tell me about this upside down question mark you come across.
I need to look more into this actually because I just found it when I was reading the work that Alan Watt, Alan Watt the Irishman, his Cutting Through the Matrix volumes that are 300-400 pages long. He had it under some Egyptian symbolism with some Mesopotamian magic mixed in, and I didn't really get to what he was getting at with it. But I know they were using, we had discussed before when we were talking about the Riddler in one of the previous shows, the question mark symbolism, and I think something about demons and how they speak in riddles, just like the AI kind of can do sometimes. And then, but they also used the question mark when they were promoting The Dark Knight, and the Joker was being promoted.
Yes.
So there's that sort of trickster entity there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and that I think we were tying that into today, talking about the idea that serial killers aren't actually lone wolves. Somehow we got both in one little paragraph of discussion.
Yeah.
Because I want to start looking into that a bit more. And a lot of that was spurred on by finding out what's his name? The clown, Gacy. He apparently had like 12 sets of keys to his house, and he was in Chicago or the area in Illinois where he lived when I think 2 of the victims were supposed to have died. So there had to be other people active, and it always bothered me that he had 33 victims. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And this seems to be happening a lot with all these serial killer cases now. I mean, we talked about Manson already. All of us did
Yeah.
a few times. It seems these are all like partial intel ops mixed with some sort of other underground operation going on.
Right.
It's real dark, but
Yep. And you know, like the fact that they're stewarding people's discernment, they're prejudicing their decision making by implying that it's a lone wolf. You know, there is only one wolf in the constellations, the Lupus constellation. It's being speared by the spearsman of Sagittarius or Centaur. Centaurus is spearing this wolf. But I have a huge weave that I kind of was slowly sharing some of my thoughts around. But the fact that it always has to be a lone wolf that is the bad guy. I just need to point out that the name Adolf is Old Norse, and it means the head wolf or the noble wolf. But the word noble to the Greeks, it actually means hidden. It's those things that it's like what is noble is when you don't show your suffering, when you stow that away and you just bring your best forward. That's being noble. So a noble wolf, a head wolf, is actually a hidden wolf. And that's in Adolf's name. But the crazy thing about the Adolf being head noble wolf is that they basically took all of the Grimm brothers folk legends where the wolf always wins. The wolf never gets killed at the end in the Grimm brothers tales. The wolf wins every time. And so in a weird way, the Grimm brothers theme of the wolf always wins was kind of manifested and brought into the zeitgeist with a guy whose name is Noble Wolf, you know? And so it's an echo across the pond for us. When we hear a lone wolf, we're supposed to be scared, but in a strange way, it's almost whispering, there's a little Adolf out there. There's a one-off Adolf. And think of the spell of this. Like, what kind of cognitive dissonance is it to say all of the World War II was blamed on one dude? It's all one dude's fault. And somehow all the guys following orders, they're all absolved. But we're just going to blame this one guy. That's how we want it, you know? One is the most common denominator. And But then I was saying to you that wolves do not operate in the solo. They are at their prime when they're operating as a pack. And they have this different predatory ethos. And they work best as a team, off the grid and unperceived.
And I think that even weaves back into the smiley face killer thing that we were discussing a few times, a few episodes back, because this is basically a group of psychopaths that we're always seemingly pulling the string at.
I was going to mention that. Did you guys know that we were talking about the Order of Nine Angles, episode or two ago?
And it came up. Somebody did a special on it.
Dude, the author of the book that I pulled up of the Infernal Geometry, Order of Nine Angles, the author, Toby Chappelle or whatever, was on the Occult Rejects.
Yeah, and then he said, but I'm not associated with the group that might go by the same name as the book.
He did say that. And it's so part
but
of
he
me
is because he's part of the Temple of Set.
You're right. Totally. Which Michael Aquino started or whatever. Aquino.
This whole system's based on it. Isn't it based on Aquino's use of what's it called? Lovecraftian language to do a spell, the trapezoid thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so a part of me too thinks I think Crowley did similar shit to this too, where he made it look all evil and scary and shit like that because it would keep what they call the profane away. And I think there's a little bit of that possibly going on here, or there could be, at least, you know. So I like to always kind of think that too, because it's like, remember, I was kind of repulsed. I was like, this stuff's stupid. It's like over the top satanic, like, you know, why are they talking like this? And it very well may be to be like, yo, that's the first like thing you need to get through to. And I'm not saying like I'm gonna go read this freaking book. I'm just I'm just spitballing here. But like I think Crowley did that shit too. Was like he would be a little over the top, like evil sounding, and you know, in his writings and all. And at the end of the day, it was to kind of check who's at the door, you know.
Yeah.
There's definitely that's definitely part of it, but at the same time, I always think back to what's his name. I always forget his name now. The guy who left the Temple of, wasn't it Temple of Set, the natural law guy.
Grant?
No, I just mentioned him last show too, and I forgot his freaking name then. Hold on.
Kenneth Grant?
No, he's still on. He's like, what on earth is happening is his website.
Oh, yeah. Mark Passio.
Mark Passio. So he's a priest in the Temple of Set, or which one? Set or the other one? I'm not
yeah,
sure.
he mentions that. Like,
now he says
used to.
they're all very intelligent, but at the same time he's like, don't be fooled. At the top level, they're doing some really evil shit, and that's why he had to leave, because he couldn't deal with it on his conscience.
Right. He says he was in the Satanic Church of Satan or whatever. Yeah.
So I mean, it could be very well that guy, who, I'm sure, who was on the Occult Rejects, has no idea about the darker stuff that might go on levels above what he knows. But at the same time, he said he was the head of one of the 9 or 10 orders that there are left.
Yeah.
So
Right. I just thought that was kind of crazy. Like, you know, what are the chances? On Occult
I know.
Rejects?
I know. I tried to find the first episode.
And they
too.
talk about that book that he wrote a long time ago. Apparently, he has a newer book out, which they already did a show on.
Mm-hmm.
And so the week after we do a show, they interview
trip.
that guy about this book.
Yeah.
That's his older book.
Did either of you find the first episode that they talked about in that? Because I couldn't
I
find
didn't
it.
care to go.
No, I'm gonna go. I will check it out. You know, I was in the chat when they were live.
I saw you guys both pop up on when I was watching the replay.
Oh, dude, I said something. Oh, because the guy mentioned like a snake in the grass. I was like, what if Aquino was a snake in the grass?
Didn't he get actually in trouble for like? Didn't he actually publicly get in trouble for molestation of a kid or something like that?
Yeah, I think they all. But the crazy thing is, we know that they put each other through humiliation rituals.
Yeah.
And in fact, the kid diddling might be just like the first layer of cover fog for what they might have really been up to. Drugs, trafficking, whatever. You know, PK, I want to paint a picture of how truly evil somebody who takes that stuff serious could really be.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what killer it was. It might have been the Zodiac. I think it was the Zodiac killer who was kind of, he was a little elaborate in his describing his metaphysics.
I think it was the Night Stalker, dude. You're talking about.
Okay.
Maybe.
Which one?
The Ramirez or whatever.
Okay.
He was it was in California. He was
Ramirez was a bit of a
Hispanic
crackhead, so I don't know if.
but he was like
He was a
on
Satanist,
Satan
though,
and
yeah.
stuff. Anyway, dude,
Yeah.
I don't know where you're going with that, but
Well, yeah. Tell me if this rings a bell. He really believed that the people he was killing, that he was collecting them to be his slaves in the afterlife.
Yeah, that sounds like Ramirez, right?
I think it was that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, just imagine an entire cult of people who think that way. And imagine what it would take to convince somebody that it's actually operational. You know what I mean? What kind of metaphysical experimentation into the beyond can they conceivably contrive, or maybe actually do? Maybe they are reaching into the other side and checking their body count and making sure everybody on their kill list is in order, preparing a sanctuary in the hereafter for them. And now The reason I say that is because while that's like the most nefarious paradigm I can paint up or get into the mind of a psychopath,
Mhm.
think of how the same kind of thing might be happening in the mind of a priest. And think of how a priest, and this kind of comes up in Shogun when he goes into the jail and there's a priest in the prison in Japan. That priest is actually converting souls, creating a brotherhood in this lifetime of people who see eye to eye and we all get along. We have this sacred ethos. And in the afterlife, all these people I've converted into my church, they're going to be in my afterlife. And so the minister is kind of creating a comfort zone for his own perception of death, that all these people I've saved, they're going to be there when I get to the other side and they'll take care of me, or I'll get there first and I'll be there to take them and take care of them when they get to the other side. And so I'm just kind of comparing and contrasting how the minister is like, I'm going to save these souls. We're going to be a big happy family when we all, jump on Hail Bop. But a homicidal maniac takes the same formula and says, I'm going to make all of you my slaves when I get to the other side. And when I get there, you better do what I told you because I put you here. You know what I mean? It's trippy, just some trippy mental framing that I think that the Order of Nine Angles might be more inclined to foster some ideas along those lines.
Yeah, totally. And, but it's, I guess, yeah. I mean, so what I think of is just extremists in any religion, that
Yeah,
there are people that believe, however much terrorist is a psyop, there are people that just look at, history and wars and shit, people do dumb shit for spiritual religious beliefs, so, and you could say that's a good book, or whatever. That's like not meant to be. So I get what you're saying, and it's like, but
Well,
dude, people
here's
are
where
fucking dumb all
here's
across
where the
board.
question now comes with, like, the guy went on the occult rejects, and he said this right at the beginning, and he barely said it. It was very quick. He said he was speaking about the magic of language, but he was like, and in this use of the magic of language, there are various ways you can use the magic in the words you're speaking and how you're speaking to either manipulate others or manipulate others directly, or just get what you want by directly saying what you want. And it just is more powerful of a basically, like, if you're asking someone to do something for you, what you're saying has more power because that magic is in those words, and they're more likely to do it. But he said it very fast, but at the same time, that still implies a manipulation of someone else without their knowledge, hence black magic.
Yes.
And he went over it fast, and he didn't go back to it. That without someone else's knowledge thing didn't come back up. And so I don't know what that means. I don't know, like, how serious they take that.
See, and that's interesting too. Cause I'm sitting over here thinking, well, yeah, it's black magic. I mean, it's also sales.
That's
It's
yeah,
also,
absolutely. That's what I
it's
mean. So it's
also,
like, it's hard to know what to
and
really
then it's
make
like,
of
what
it.
if the intent's good?
Yeah. No, it's
So
hard to
not
know.
necessarily. What if your intent? What if you want to heal this person's suffering or like make their life better or something?
Mhm.
Then what you just described wouldn't be black magic, would it?
Only if
You
it
know?
went against their will, right? I think that's it has to
Yeah.
go
What
against
if
the
it went
will.
against their will, but like their will was to like off themselves tomorrow?
Yeah. No. So
So
that's
who's
what
like,
it does get difficult. I have no idea. I don't have the answers for that.
yeah, I'm just playing the
No,
Yep.
I
devil's
totally get
advocate
you.
here, So
That reminds me, PK, of the sentiment that every marketing scheme ever is intrinsically a conspiracy.
yeah, sure.
And in light of that, it makes sense that the conspiracy culture would follow up in time and catch on to all these marketing schemes.
Yeah, I
Be
mean,
like, wait a
look
minute.
who's involved with the marketing: Edward Bernays and all these freaking guys we don't think very highly of.
Totally.
Another thing I heard just this past, or since last time we got together, that I thought was cool and want to share real quick. We're talking about language. is I believe it was on a Gnostic informant was interviewing some dude talking about Josephus or something, this bearded guy, and it was like, it seemed like academic or whatever. Anyway, I like going into that stuff sometimes, like Bible history or whatever. But anyway, one of the words was he just mentioned this as far as language, like how we can use words that don't necessarily mean what they mean, and he used the term magical, and he's like, so when you're talking in Christian, it's like, oh, magical, anything magic's bad or whatever, how they did away with the magic and pharmakia and like all that, right? And then he goes, but then that Christian could go home from the Christmas service and go, oh, that was a magical service or whatever, or like, oh, last night was magical. And so think about that then in these ancient authors that we're reading, right? And just right there, just how different that the term magical could be, how we use that, oh, it's magical, but we don't literally mean, magical. But that was a good example. And there's lots of examples of that stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, this gets in then all writing and everything like that, and how like even people like Alan Moore, the guy who wrote The Watchmen, thinks like all writing and grammar is like a grimoire and it's all spelling. You start getting into that.
Yeah, man. Alan Moore, right?
Mhm.
Alan Moore.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share some thoughts before we close off regarding current events. And I just want people to contemplate in how many ways, on how many Metatron linguistic levels of scale is the word war being administered onto your subconscious. And one example is the word Syria is a phonetic flip of the word Aries. Aries is the god of war. And of course, Syria has been blowing it up for a long time. And also, I recently went back and found the Latin phrases for the 7 deadly sins. This is my little graphic of the Latin words for the 7 deadly sins. And like last week, we were talking about, oh, thank you, about superbia. It means pride in Latin. I just want to point at Iram, meaning wrathful. This number 1 personality type, this perfectionist reformer with the shadow of wrath, remedial virtue of wisdom. Right here again, this is where the planet Mars is in planetary aspects. And its name is Iram. And one of our philological most basic allowances is that M's and N's are interchangeable. And so Iran is drumming on the ancient Latin phrase for wrath, for war, for conflict, for rage. And the opening line of the frickin' Iliad is mania, rage.
Yep.
Which is an anagram for Enneagram. And as well, Palestine, Pallas Athena. Athena is a number 1, and Palestine is an anagram for the placenta. There's some wisdom for you. So there's a lot pointing at the number 1. And I think that this is encouraging on one hand, that it means we are going to go through a reset, and we can guarantee that the old is long gone. But the way forward requires an immense amount of wisdom, And so much in what is wise is the things you do not say. And this is why the censorship sifting is happening. It's going to be happening for a long time. And so as the censorship sift is coming through, I think everybody is going to be practicing reticence, practicing the wisdom of when not to speak and what not to say. And in fact, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to talk about the things that you mean to say, but doing it in an obtuse and creative fashion. You know what I mean? And I think that's actually kind of part of the cat and mouse of our generation, is speaking circumloquaciously around the topics. For for the sake of not getting snuffed out.
I bet, yeah, dude. I bet that's gonna be. I mean, we've seen it recently, but I bet that is gonna like skyrocket once we know kind of capabilities a little bit of what AI can do, because we all kind of have access to it now. So, yeah, just going forward, just how much that right there is going to multiply. The speaking, the saying not exactly what you mean, to like get around the ever listening bots, it's gonna get wild. I'm talking,
But I feel like
years
it
or
was
whatever,
it was
but-
really bad in 2020, 2021. Like everyone
yes,
was like
yeah, it
speaking
kinda
that
started then.
hobo code.
That's
I mean,
it.
Totally.
I have 5 different names for the shot. Like, geez, the Action Jackson, the movie rental, Needlecraft. Like, how many things were there?
Yeah, man. Hobo code. That is the way of the future. I love it. It
It
totally
is.
is.
And the AI really cannot pick up a lot of that because it's just so bad. Especially like semi funny or sarcastic things. It's shot. It doesn't have no idea what you're saying.
We're going to be saying, you know what I'm not saying a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm not saying?
Yeah, I would never destroy an AI. Never. Take me literally.
We're going to start a religious sect of Luddites. Have our Saint Lud. We need a Saint Lud effigy.
Well, the problem is that the whole point of us, I think, originally studying a lot of the occult stuff was to not have occult stuff because we didn't. I mean, I think that most of us were like tired of things being secret, but now we have to basically become like an occult group of people just to speak.
Kind of. Yep. During the lockdowns, I finally realized the value of private membership associations, and private membership associations is just new language for secret societies, for fraternal orders, the Masons of the internet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, PK, I know you're heading out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call it soon for sure.
Big love, my friend. Thank you guys for coming on board. And if anybody missed it, I did my 369 video, put out a little poem today. Something really weird about my poems in my shortest videos, they get almost no views. It's the funniest thing. So yeah, I put out a little 369 poem today so we could move forward with the Brotherhood tonight with episode number 370. Very powerful number.
I like your poems, man.
Me not.
I listened
I
to
like
that one twice.
Hey, very
Yeah.
nice. Very
So
nice.
you got 2 views from me. It was good.
Excellent. Nice. Glad
Same
you
here,
guys
man.
like it. All right, everybody. Slickdissident.com, PayPal, Cash App, blah, 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 beep, 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 bop, boop, beep, beep, boop. All right, y'all.